Welcome, everyone. Happy Saturday. I'm the Gray Strega, and I'm here to give you your daily collective read for today, Saturday, April 26, 2024. 25. Oh my goodness. 2025. Where are we? What day is it? Can I please have the first two cards? It's one of those days. Can I please have the first two cards in our 5-card spread? First two cards we're starting our day off with today are, we've got here, I love it. We've got here our 3 of Swords in its reversal in combination with our Queen of Cups in its reversal. This is welcome. Like, this is a real heart opening new moon. I just see it. There's a lot. There's a lot of catharsis that's coming in right now. There's a lot of contemplation. It's a lot of honoring the feelings, recognizing and identifying what it is that you're trying to move towards in terms of like what feels like it's in alignment to you. But I see it also feels like a new moon that's also allowing for some kind of space or place of letting go, recognizing and identifying, like, and I keep on seeing like, and here's the thing about it. And I like it because the letting go that we're hearing about here, it's more of that path work of surrender. And here's the thing about it. We've talked a lot about this here. Surrendering isn't giving up. Okay? Surrendering isn't giving up on things. Surrendering are those moments or those modalities where you come into spaces of accepting, right? Because when we are able to accept circumstances as they are, we're able to identify more clearly what it is that we're trying to build towards, right? And there's a lot of this, I keep on seeing, there's a lot of that consideration point here. There's a lot of that, I keep on hearing a lot of that catharsis, a lot of that conciliation. And I want to say, like, this is having, I think a lot of what we're feeling right now also has to do with the fact that we've got Venus and Saturn that are preparing to move into Aries. Okay? This is like, and I want to describe again, like, we've had a lot of, like, this has been like a bit of an emotionally tumultuous time. We've had a lot of this energy yo-yoing back and forth across the meridian between Aries and Pisces. Okay? It's a lot of that. If you've been feeling like this, it's not like, it's not in you, it's around you. And again, what happens, and I feel like there's something that's very important as well in relationality. And this is how the Taurus energy is helping to a certain extent. The reliability we're able to create when we find the stability of the self is not conditional of the mood swings of the self, right? We've been talking a lot about this here because, you know, and this is why, like, the planets will often like work a number on our emotions, right? And then I'll tell you right now, like, that calibration point, that yo-yo effect between the Aries and Pisces right now, right? When we talk about emotional volatility or feeling the tumultuousness of the emotions within, it's not that that ever goes away. There's a misconception that often I believe that others have as it relates to spiritual path work. Like, it's almost the energy being like, oh yeah, you know, like when you heal, like all of that turbulence goes away. Newsflash, it doesn't go anywhere. Okay? Like, energy cannot be created nor destroyed. It's not that you move into, it's not like you move onto a spiritual path and then suddenly your feelings go away, but the ability to observe through them, right? The ability to observe upon how one feels instead of reacting to what one feels. This is often archetypal of the journey that we talk about when we talk about the ability to honor the emotions, right? And one of the messages that's been coming through that I find is really beautiful is when we think about our emotions like children, it allows us to listen to them. I keep on hearing, listen to our emotions patiently. Listen to our emotions sympathetically. But at the same time, sometimes having those difficult conversations with the emotions as to why they can't have their way. Right? Like, Because that's what we do. That's what we do with children, right? When we're honoring, right? When we honor the emotions, we very similarly we honor them in the way that we would a child. And that is, and again, it is actively listening, right? It is actively trying to understand what they are asking for. And then all often, even then, sometimes helping them understand the difference between what is being demanded from them versus what is energetically good for them, right? I keep on seeing there's a lot of that work here. And that's all I told you. That's a lot of that Pisces. That's a lot of that Pisces Aries energy going like wah, 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 going back and forth. Because that's how we find that energetic consistent point. That's how we find those modalities of balance. And I keep on seeing it's not easy, but when we're doing that work, it allows for us to communicate in ways that we haven't been able to before, right? Now, this is having a different impact depending on where one finds oneself on the frequency cycles. And that's why I keep on seeing I just keep on seeing that there's a lot of energy in separation right now that is working through a lot of energy in the based around the Magician card. Why are we seeing that there's a lot of that energy right now kind of embracing Magician energy? Because one of the things that we talk about when we study that card, and we've actually done a class on that you can find in the Tarot Church Library, that space, that intersectionality, right? And I feel like for a lot of the energy in separation, some of this Mercury-Venus retrograde that we went through created breakthroughs. And I think that they were painful breakthroughs, because I'm seeing here it's either breakthroughs in terms of embracing the self, right? And also embracing the reality of situations, particularly in the realm of situations or circumstances that felt like they were requiring an unattainable desire for perfection. Why are we seeing this now? Because we worked through one of the big overarching lessons that we saw that were occurring during that eclipse cycle is with the Virgo full moon in it, is remembering that perfect is not found. It's moved towards. It's a cardinal direction. It's not a location. You can't find it on the map. And so this could have been, I see that there could have been a lot of relationships that potentially reached a finalitude moment during that retrograde cycle. Because if that was the energy that was requiring perfection to have progress forward, Neptune, the movement of Neptune was basically saying, perfection is not required for progress forward, but perfection, because nothing is ever perfect, but perfection will often be, a lack of perfection will often be articulated as to why there's a point of stagnancy for someone that feels like they're in something that's perfect, because they're really articulating the fact that they don't want it to change. So that's why I keep on seeing that for a lot of the energy right now in separation, coming towards one another in authenticity. Authenticity being the prioritization point of the energy. This is why I'm calling these the Magician partnerships, because these are the energies that are saying what you see is what you get. This is the relationships that someone is saying, this is not a mistake. Like what you're seeing here, like the person that you see is not a mistake. If we move towards the intentional choices of who we are, it doesn't require perfection. It's the energy that says that is the energy that works to understand the self, that works to be empowered by the self, that works to be recognition of the self. And this is the energy that says, if I'm working on the self and I recognize what my flaws are, I recognize what my assignments are, then it's not another person's responsibility. If another person sees that and has distaste for it, right, working through the realm of aversion, that's not rejection, because rejection's an illusion. That's an energetic blessing, right? Because if someone sees us in our intentional authenticity and goes, ew, like that's not the type of energy that you want to grow with. because that's going to require you to have to be performative and be someone that you're not to be able to build into the energetic connection, right? So this is the energy that goes, ew, thank goodness, right? It's like the rejection that is like, thank you, because it helps. And so that's why I see a lot of this energy, and I can see it. It's like it's going, I'm sick of it, right? This is the energy that's got the ick in being the performative version of self. This is the energy that's working a lot on heart opening, even as they're building into that space of being themselves, right? Because it's a celebration of the self that feels like it protects you from those that aren't for you. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, I just hear this energy going, I'll be in my library if you need me. Why is the energy saying I'll be in my library if you need me? Because I told you all this energy we saw, all that high priestess energy. But it's interesting because it's like it's it's funny because I said that the energy was going into hermit mode, but they're not going into hermit mode. They're going into high priestess mode because it's magician combined with hermit is high priestess, right? Because this is a lot of the energy right now that's working in that sense of the self, where in the energy that's coming into, these are the chariot partnerships, right? That now that they've found the stabilization point of healthy partnership, because when you're a chariot partnership, the priority is the ground that you create that is stable around one another. This is the energy that feels like they finally got their hands free to go inward, to explore the self, to understand the self further. But there's a lot of heart opening that's happening there. But unfortunately, when you finally come into a space of being safe, the first thing that comes out is the trauma, right? The first thing that comes out is all that pain you've been storing. So I just see that this may be a very emotionally tender time right now for the energy coming into divine union, because it's starting to unpack things that you never felt safe to unpack before, right? Because we talked a little bit about the fact that, like, for a lot of that energy, heart opening, coming into healthy relationship, you can't bandage yourself up on a battlefield. This is why the body stores trauma. It's like it stores trauma to wait for a place where it's safe to express. While for masculine and feminine, deep within divine union, can I get one card to clarify? There's that temperance energy, baby steps, right? When we're healing, it's like baby breath. When we're healing, it's like baby steps, because again, there is a tenderness here. When you're working to heal something, you do it. You can't force healing on things. Why? When you try to force healing on things, you damage things further. Your intentions are not enough to heal something. It's not about your intentions. Your intentions, often trauma is formed from the best of intentions, right? Healing comes in consensual spaces. Healing is a mutually consensual act. And so I keep on seeing that for a lot of the energy deep within divine union, like working through, I keep on hearing the energy like working with counterparts saying inside or outside, inside or outside. Why is the energy saying inside or outside? Because if they're trying to move something in alignment and trying to repair something or trying to do something differently and they're having a little bit of that resistance, the energy is almost looking with a sense of trust towards counterpart and saying, is it something I need to work on internally? Or is this something that I'm experiencing externally, right? And the beauty, I keep on hearing the beauty of being in healthy partnership. These are the warrior energies, the clear mirror, the incredible clear mirror that we build upon in healthy partnership. When we have, I keep on hearing the beauty of the counterpart that feels that they can say anything to us, because we rely upon the space that when we are in a space of healing, energy is more likened to speak kindly to us rather than nicely. Because when we're speaking kindly, we're able to talk about something difficult without being energetically triggered. It is the open palm of I keep on hearing the open palm of sensitive relationship and working on that sensitivity. Fourth and fifth card in our 5-card spread is, there it is, Knight of Pentacles with Ace of Cups in its reversal. I told you this is having a different impact on masculine and feminine. Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what one feels most aligned to. For feminine right now, this has a lot to do with the ability to navigate the space of emotions. And again, I think it's really beautiful because I just keep on seeing that a lot of the feminine energy is understanding and recognizing that when you come into a space of like balance of the self, it's not like the emotions go away, right? We just have better ways of articulating through them, right? When we look at our emotions like children, we don't just, like we don't just follow where the child wants to go full tilt, right? You know what I mean? You go, whoa, 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 whoa. Come here, buddy. Where are you going? Where are you going with that? What are you doing? Right? You honor the emotions like you honor children, which says you take the time to listen to them, right? And sometimes it's hard to understand. You ever like sometimes it's hard to sometimes you ever have a child come up to you and you're like, what, you're not making a lick of sense, little buddy. Right? Like you're not making a lick of sense. But what do we do in those moments? We listen more carefully, right? We try to understand. And so I see that there's a lot of the work of the feminine doing that work in trying to understand confusing emotions, right? Because sometimes the emotions ask for things. You go, where are you going? Why you want to go over there? No, wait, like why? Like, because again, emotions don't carry memory. Okay, emotions don't carry memory, they only carry feelings. So sometimes this is why emotions try to drag us back to places that aren't good for us. Because emotions are like, we felt strongly there. And sometimes we have to say to the emotions, like, I know you felt strongly there, but it's not about what you felt strongly about. It's about what was happening, right? Welcome to a lot of this Saturn moving through Venus, right? That this is a lot of working through trauma and understanding. The reason we sometimes feel pinned in traumatic places is because the emotions are activated, right? And it creates that space. So I just see that there's like a lot of trauma healing that's happening during this time, but it's hard. And that's happening across all the frequencies. For masculine, it's having to work through, I feel like a lot of this new moon is bringing in the concept of surrender. And remembering, again, the mantra being surrender is not giving up. Surrender is letting go of what we insist on. Because when we stop insisting on things, we can see the possibilities that are surrounding us. This is why insisting is so unhealthy to a spiritual journey. And that doesn't mean you don't want things. It doesn't mean you don't want things. It's you understand the reason why you want the things that you do. Because often one of the signs that we insist, right? Welcome to Taurus season. Has to be this way. Why does it have to be that way? It has to be this way. Why does it have to be that way? Right? What is the trigger word? Because I want it that way. Right? It's in the moment we say because I want it that way, but we're not exactly able to explain why. That we sometimes can be indicative in recognizing something that's coming more from our ego, from our energetic defense mechanism. Right? And so I keep on hearing that a lot of the masculine energy is working on, again, I told you, lowering the egoic shield. When I stop insisting, I can see. When I stop insisting on how I want things to be, I open my eyes to the possibilities of what could be. Continuing to get clarification between our Three of Swords in its reversal, in combination with our Queen of Cups in its reversal. This is like such a tender Taurus season. There's like so much sensitivity here. It's good. I'm not mad about it. It's just I gotta tell you, I keep on hearing never has a Taurus season been so heartwarming because I feel like a lot of it. I think it's because I think the reason we have this is going on right now is because we've got so much of this energy moving back and forth between the meridian of Pisces and Aries. It feels like an emotional roller coaster, But what's beautiful is when we find ourselves, we don't feel disoriented by the emotional roller coaster. We just recognize that the circumstances and situations can sometimes, create a lot of that, like you keep on hearing, like that disorientation. But we talk a lot about this here. The reason we work to understand ourselves is it makes it easier to understand something that we're working on within versus something that we're experiencing without. So again, this is a lot of the culmination of the work that we saw building into the context of a lot of that eclipse season, because that eclipse season we just went through was no joke, right? Very easy to take things personally. But again, not taking things personally, trying to be productive, right? Trying to like I keep on hearing, like, there's a lot of this, I keep on hearing a lot of these messages in relationality to bitterness, you know, bitterness. What happens when we're energetically bitter? When we're bitter about things, right? Bitter is the trauma that another person places on us, and then we hold on to within, and like our choice to be bitter about it creates the poison within, right? Like, and that's what I keep on hearing. We can't choose trauma. Trauma often occurs around us, and that's why, trauma is confusion. But bitterness is choice, is what I keep on hearing. And that's why it's like that's why there's so many of these that's why there's so much of this work that I see right now in relationality to working in the context of letting something go, because it's like the bitterness that we hold within, it almost, like I keep on hearing, like the inner child says, it doesn't make any sense, right? Because all it does is it just hurts the inner child. And we talk a lot about that here, that, there was something, it's interesting. And it's interesting. I need to bring it forth because it's actually something that came to me from another client's reading. And I want to, it's a koan that I want to refer to here because it feels like it is important to reference. And the way I'm going to describe, first of all, for those who don't know what a koan is a koan is, it is a philosophical line that we can meditate upon, because there's something of value to be learned in the statement. And it is, angry baby doesn't get bottle. But why do we say angry baby doesn't get bottle? Because babies are not angry. And it's interesting too, because the reason it came through in another client's reading was because it was talking about the nature of the egoic self. That the reason that we don't get upset when a child cries is because it's from a place of pain. It's from a place of need. That babies are effectively never angry, right? And this is why we address the needs of anger in children in a way that's different than we do when the egoic self is formed. Because the baby that is crying is not crying from a place of anger. They're crying from a place of distress. The reason that they said angry baby does not get bottle is because they're saying that when a child reaches the point of being angry, they no longer need a bottle. They no longer need to be consoled. They need understanding of what they are feeling, because the word anger indicates an egoic self that they are in conversation with. So those moments or those modalities wherein we identify and recognize the anger, right? The bitterness that rises up. It's almost like an allegory in saying that the child is never bitter. Children do not carry the weight of bitterness. The egoic self does. So that's why I see that there's a lot of this work that's happening right now with this full moon in working to let go or understand the nature of bitterness, to be able to come into deeper spaces of healing. And that's happening across all of the frequencies. And I think that it's due to the combination force of the proximity of Saturn and Venus transiting into Aries together. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Queen of Cups in its reversal in combination with our Six of Pentacles in its upright. May I have one card to clarify? Whoop, two cards coming out. Very interesting. We have here the Ten of Wands in its reversal in combination with the Seven of Wands in its upright. So it's really beautiful. And I want to describe this because we actually saw this. We saw this a couple of days ago. When we had like the last reading we did, and you can see the full spread of it over on the Substack. We started out with a ridiculous amount of swords. We started out with a ridiculous amount of swords in the beginning of the reading. And as we did the reading, they changed into wands. And this is what we talk about. Like the transformation of swords into wands is the beginning, the ability to start to heal bitterness, right? Because a sword is energetically unyielding, right? A sword is like iron. A wand is energetically pliant and pliable. So I keep on seeing that there's a lot of that work, and this is happening across all the frequencies, in recognizing and understanding the difference. I keep on hearing the difference between stubbornness and tenacity, the difference between bitterness and I keep on hearing energetic passion, right? And being able to work in those spaces is effectively the articulation point as it relates to what one holds on to and what one lets go of, right? Because there's something, I keep on saying, there's something really important about those journeys as it relates to being able, like, and I keep on, and this is, and I keep on hearing it has to do with path work, right? And basically, like, this is something that's really, like, they're saying that this is a way that can help us identify something that is supportive to us. When we hold on to something that creates like no path forward, okay, like that's usually where bitterness starts, right? When we're holding on to something and being like, and it's just like, and it just creates that energetic it's like that stoppage point, like everything. I keep on hearing like those crux moments, right? Like, and I keep on hearing it's like it's understanding, and this is why I see that there's a little bit of that karmic healing that's occurring here, because especially for a lot of the energy and separation, because this is the modality of understanding what is possible to heal versus what was an impossibility. And sometimes I even see it now. Sometimes we talk about this closure comes from going forward, because if these were circumstances or situations where someone recognized this, like this demand for perfection, right? Like, and I keep on hearing that the problem with being in a space that you demand perfection is it constantly increases, right? And that's the energy that says, like, what is often the song you hear in relationships that are tainted by a need for perfection? Nothing was ever good enough, right? Because yeah, like when you're moving too much in that pathwork, and when you haven't healed the need for perfection, right? When you don't work on the self, but when you demand it of others around you, it creates that impossibility point, because it makes others feel like, I keep on saying, it makes others feel like nothing they do is worthy or nothing they do is ever enough. So often those relationships lead into spaces of burnout or breakdown, right? Energy that literally falls into a breakdown because of the inordinately high standards that are being placed on them. It's like the hot water that increases, right? It's never energetically enough. It just gets like, it never gets better. I keep on hearing it gets better. It only gets worse, because every time you improve, someone finds something else to articulate that you're failing upon. So that's why I keep on seeing that for a lot of the energy, that this is why the energy in separation is so much in their magician energy, because this is the energy that's basically saying they're not looking for perfection in themselves. They found perfection because they're working on perfecting the self. And when we work on perfecting the self, we immediately understand and recognize when someone's holding standards that are unattainable, right? Because it's just, because it's not feeling, you don't feel energetically weighted down by another person's need for perfection. You feel a lot of sadness towards that person, right? Because you either understand that that's either something that they hold in accordance with themselves, that they're projecting out onto those around them, or they're articulating it because they've recognized that a good way of keeping something at the way that you want it to be is by constantly saying the reason you're not going forward is because something isn't energetically perfect. And that's why the energy is saying, regardless of the reason, right? This is the energy that goes, regardless of the reason, they're not having it. Because it doesn't matter the reasons, it leads to the same unhappiness. That brings us to and that's why I keep on seeing that there's a little bit of this, like, there's a little bit of this excitement that's occurring in some of these partnerships, because the energy is like, I keep on hearing the energy that's meeting each other on the terrain of saying to one another, I'm sick of having to be another person's perfect. Right? Like that is what's being released as these energies come into connection. While for masculine and feminine coming into divine union, this is the energy that's healing from that, because this is the energy that is building upon the pathwork of understanding that that ground that they found with for another did not require perfection. It just required mutually understood and agreed upon assignments. Because when we're in healthy relationship, it's not that we're perfect. It's that we understand and recognize what we're striving for together. It's a journey that we take. It's a journey that we embark upon that changes us, right? It doesn't demand from us. While for masculine and feminine energy, deep within divine union, clarification between that clarification between the Six of Pentacles and the Knight of Pentacles in its reversal. It be like that sometimes. There's that sword. This is more of a continuation point that I keep on seeing in relationality to the work deep within divine union that's happening as it relates to working through difficulties. That temperance energy in the temperance energy that says, you extend the olive branch, but you don't cut down the tree. Why do we keep on hearing you extend the olive branch, but you don't cut down the tree? Because when you're again, it works on the space that when you're trying to fix something, when you're trying to better something, it's not about having to like bend over backwards. It's not about over giving to situations. It's meeting others where you find them. So I keep on seeing that this is a lot of that energy, like working in that I keep on hearing like the glacier effect of trying to identify and recognize like the offer that you put towards another with a sense of possibility, and then building into the context of how they energetically receive it, right? And that's why I see like for the energy there, that's like, it's saying that compassion has like it has a placement point. It has a resting space, because this is the energy that like, again, looks towards what is being, I keep on hearing the energetic healing that is reciprocal, the back and forth that we create, the healthy give and take, that doesn't feel like one has to go like extend further or beyond that point, right? So there's a lot of that space there. Continuing to get, and that's a lot of the energy that keeps on, like I even see like those conversations with counterpart as it relates to what one can change from within versus what one is experiencing without. Continuing to get clarification between our Knight of Pentacles in combination with our Ace of Cups in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through with the Two of Wands. The one thing I like a lot right now, especially with some of this new moon energy coming in, has to do in the realm of communication, in the realm of adaptability. There's just a lot of this work right now that I'm seeing that has to do, I keep on seeing like, and I feel like, and this is what I meant with this being like, I feel like this new moon is very much about heart opening, because it's often one of the indicators that we have in relationality to healing is our own ability to talk about something that is energetically difficult. And so I just see that there's potentially a lot of that communication that's occurring through those spaces right now. And I like it because it feels very energetically adaptable. It feels very like, and I keep on hearing like the healing is coming through the mouth. Why is the healing coming through the mouth? Because the ability to talk through something, right? The ability to articulate upon it. This is what helps us recognize what it is that we're working on. Like when we talk about it, we understand our assignments. And so that's why I keep on seeing, and again, we've talked, the reason why they say the healing comes through the mouth is because when we hold on to something and we can't explain why, that's usually the ego. Remember, we've talked about this. Like if we're like, why are you upset about that? Okay, you want to walk through? No. It doesn't allow for any clarification on how something can be fixed or adapted, right? Like this is what we talk about when we talk about like the bitterness that often frames those moments that we realize we're holding on to something that isn't helping us, because it's something that the ego holds on to. When we're holding on to something that is significant, that is valuable, that is important. It's not stubbornness, it's tenacity. Because the energetic ego, remember the ego, the higher self, can always explain the reasons why. They can always explain the importance. They can always explain like what meaning something has. And so I keep on hearing the energy of the higher self is always willing to have those conversations, while the ego, like, and that's the problem. Like the ego, I keep on hearing the ego creates blinders, right? Because what does the ego say? Don't talk to them, right? What does the ego say? I don't want to talk about it, right? The ego creates those rigid points that it doesn't allow for a point of safety. It creates a lot of that blockage point as it relates to, again, working in the space of aversion, but not the aversion that one can articulate upon. This is like, and I just keep on like, that's why I keep on seeing like the difference between the Ace of Swords and the Two of Wands here, continuing to get clarification between our Page of Wands and its upright, our Ten of Wands and its reversal, and our Six of Wands and its upright. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now as with our Seven of Swords and its upright. And I'm not surprised to see this right now, because what we have basically happening during this new moon is we effectively have Saturn and Venus preparing to transit back into Aries, right? And if you'll recall, I mentioned that one of the things that's important that happened over the last few days was that Mercury and Venus woke up behind Neptune, and Neptune is the space of memory. So that ability of looking at the past, right, with the perspective of the present, there's something I keep on seeing here. It's almost like I keep on hearing, it's like the ability to identify if you've changed your mind about something. You know what I mean? Like, and that's beautiful. Like, that's the thing that's beautiful. Like, the beauty that we find in a healthy energetic journey is the adaptability of, I keep on hearing, the beauty of a changing viewpoint that almost allows for that space of recognizing and seeing things in the context that one hasn't seen it before. And that's what I keep on seeing, because there's a lot of that forgiveness that I'm identifying for a lot of the energy working through that new moon energy, because this is not the energy. This is like, this is the changing, like this is the changing of time that shapes us. But, and that's what I keep on seeing about this, like the difference between something that you would do, like the difference of something that you would do differently versus something that you would do again. There's something really important about that. Now, this is important for the energy and separation, because I feel like there's something that's happening for some of the energy and separation right now, which may feel like a little bit of that deja vu, right? And what happens in the space of deja vu, and this is why sometimes we feel triggered when we feel like those moments of repeating something with another person, being like, oh no, the memory of what occurred, but not feeling like you did something wrong. Those moments sometimes feel like they're healing, because those are those moments that you do something the same exact way you did, reaffirming to yourself the commitment that there was nothing that was wrong that you did in the first place. And in that moment, that suddenly something that you did that was not healthy creates that moment of something expansive, right? It's almost like the conversation that you have with the universe that says to you, now I get to show you what that would have been like with someone that wanted the same things as you. Now I get to show you that moment of what that would have been like with someone that was pulling with you instead of against you. And that's why I see that there's a little bit of this energy that's like leaning. I keep on hearing they're leaning in to their own experience, even as they're feeling triggered, because this is the energy that says, like, often when we're healing from trauma, we say, I didn't do anything wrong. I would do that again, right? And that's like there's that moment or that modality that articulates upon that allows for that sense of breakthrough and energetic expansion, because it's in that moment that we challenge ourselves, right? It's in that moment, I keep on hearing, in that moment that we put pressure on the wound of trauma, that we have the breakthrough in forgiveness when we suddenly have that hand that reaches out to grasp, when we have that opportunity of someone giving us what we knew we energetically deserved. And that's why we see that there's I see that there's a lot of energy right now building into relationship, and they're pushing themselves. But it's the pushing of the self that almost immediately allows for a breakthrough in the reaffirmation of not letting a bad experience change one in ways that one does not desire to be changed. Continuing to get clarification between our 10 of Wands in its reversal in combination with our 7 of Wands in its upright, in combination with our Ace of Swords in its upright. One card to clarify. Clarification, there it is. There, I love, listen, if there's one card I love to see, is a 5 of Pentacles in its reversal. This is some healing of abandonment wounds, right? It takes time. Healing abandonment wounds takes a lifetime, right? And sometimes it's qualitative. The energy that says it doesn't hurt as much, right? So I got to say, this is why we call it trauma, right? It's not that it doesn't go away. It's how we learn to carry it. And I keep on hearing the same message, which is like, we don't get mad at each other for carrying trauma, because trauma is sticky pain, right? Trauma is sticky pain. If we could let it go, it wouldn't be trauma. If you can let it go, it wouldn't be trauma. But that's why we work in the context of understanding it, right? We work in the context of working in terms of how we carry it, right? Because when we stop beating ourselves up for not letting go of trauma, and we start saying, I'm going to live with this. This is never going to stop hurting, right? If something impacted you and you can't let it go, it's because it's trauma. It's sticky stuff. It's not about letting go. It's how you carry it, right? So it doesn't get on everything. Because when you carry trauma poorly, right? If trauma is sticky stuff and you carry trauma poorly, it's usually indicative, because you get that trauma on everything. Okay, you get it on everything. Everything. Oh no, this is what we talk about. It's not about not carrying the trauma. It's how you carry it that is the articulation point on how much you've healed with it. And unfortunately with trauma, it's not about letting go of it. Welcome to, we're doing a lot of work in Chiron right now, right? Looking at the journey of Chiron, the wounded healer, the healer that carries the fatal wound with them every day. And every day they learn more about it so that they can heal others with the journey of never being able to fully heal the self. This is what trauma is like. We identify and recognize and say, I will never be free of this wound. But if I can move forward and prevent this wound from occurring from those around me, then I've done my energetic service to myself and all of those that surround me. Because that's a beauty of some of that Taurus energy, building in the tenacity of sometimes saying the buck stops here. The buck stops here. This is what we talk about. We hold the door of the self. We say, this is what is important. I'm not going to allow those things through. I'm not going to allow those bad memories to ruin the present. I'm not going to allow that bad relationship to destroy the good one that I'm currently living in. I'm not going to allow all of the abuse that was given to me to then be something that I give to those around me. It's not about that. Have you stopped hurting? No. It hurts all the time. Hurts every minute. But the grace comes in saying it stays, the pain stays within, and I choose to transmute it without. That is what we talk about when we talk about heart opening. And that's happening across all of the frequencies. Continuing to get clarification between our Ace of Swords and our Two of Wands in its upright. One card to clarify. There it is, the Ace of Pentacles, and it's heavy, right? We feel that weight. We honor the weight of what we carry. Welcome to New Moon in Taurus. When we honor the weight of what we carry, right? But then we feel the gift of being able to carry that burden. Welcome to that Mars in Leo, right? A heavy journey is not something that we make, that we articulate as the reason, right? And we all have those moments. We say, well, this is what I got, this is what you give, right? This feels fair, right? It's not about fairness, right? Because if that's fairness, then that means that if we all treat each other poorly, then it's okay to treat each other poorly. But when we have those moments and we rise above, we hold the energetic standard, right? It's not about what we receive, it's what we desire the world to be. Then we create the possibility of what could be around us. And this is what we talk about in relationality to not insisting upon things, right? It's not building into the context of forcing, like forcing things to be things that they're not, but saying to others around you, and again, who you are is energetically unconditional to the experience that surrounds you. And that's what makes you blessed, right? When you are able to navigate that space, when you're able to recognize and not feel and say to oneself, why is this happening? But what can I do to bring this into the energetic standard that I hope it to be? Like I keep on hearing, there's a lot of this work that we're doing in relationality to the open palm, and this is having a different impact across the frequencies. For masculine and feminine in separation, this is why the energy is being so authentic right now. This is the energy that's saying, you know, I'm not like, this is the energy that's saying almost to each other. There's something beautiful about these partnerships because the energy is coming towards each other and they're saying, take it or leave it, but don't try to perfect it. Why is the energy in separation saying, take it or leave it, but don't try to perfect it? Because this is the energy that says, I work on perfecting the self. I work on perfecting the self. So if this is the energy that says take it or leave it, but do not try to perfect it, this is the energy that says understand that we carry that sense of perfection within us. And what you're seeing and building upon in the partnership is what another person is doing to try to reach their perfect. And this is why the energy is very highly sensitive right now to energy coming towards them from a space of criticism. Because if that is the criticism of someone who was articulating what they desire, and not liking what they see in another, this is energy that doesn't feel like they're looking to build with someone, but try to build someone, right? Trying to build the perfect person, trying to build the perfect partner. Healthy relationship is not a situation where we try to build into what it is that we want from another. We build together or not at all. So that's what I keep on seeing for a lot of this energy coming into divine union. This is why the energy coming into divine union, those chariot partnerships, they're feeling the relief. They're feeling blessed. They're saying to one another, thank you. And the energy saying, I'm not doing anything. And the energy saying, exactly. Because in that moment that you take each other as you are, right? And you allow for that to be the space of saying that that is the ground, the reliability of not feeling like you have to perform every moment to try to build into the need of another. It gives you your time back. It gives you the chance to go into the sanctuary of the self. And this is why the energy keeps on saying, you are giving me a gift whose value cannot be expressed in simple terms. It is a profound gift. While for masculine and feminine, deep within divine union right now, clarification between our 7 of swords in its upright in combination with that 5 of pentacles in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Woo, there she is again. I am telling you, this is wild. Guys, make sure that you go head over. Make sure that you go head over and take a peek at the readings, the full spreads that we've been having over the last few days. We've just had High Priestess energy over and over and over again. And again, she's in the same exact position. She's in the same exact position that she was at the last reading, but now she's in her reversal, right? And it's important that she's in her reversal because this is the irony of healing, which is not like, and that's the energy goes, what do you think, you're perfect? No, being healed is not about being perfect. It's far from it. And often you'll recognize that those who feel like they're perfect, things have gone way wrong. Something has gone. Something is not okay. If you're on a healing journey and you think you're perfect, we got to bring it back. We hold on. We got to rewind it back again. We got to rewind it back. It's not about feeling perfect. If you're feeling perfect on a good spiritual journey, something has gone way off course. It's about identifying and recognizing how to get to it. Right? It's a climb. It's something we climb towards. It's always a bit out of our grasp. And that's why I keep on seeing that for a lot of that energy And this is why I hear the energy in separation. And it's important for the energy. We're going to talk first about the energy deep within divine union, because again, the energy deep within divine union is building into the context of the clear mirror of the counterpart, right? The clear mirror of the counterpart. What is the clear mirror of the counterpart? When we build healthy relationship with ourselves, we build a relationship with counterpart that we trust their observations. We trust their we trust their feedback. And that's why I keep on hearing that in a healthy relationship, it's not nice all the time, but it's always kind. Because that's that moment. Then, and remember, we talked about this. What is the beauty of being in healthy partnership? The opposite of building into a relationship of potential. When we hold our higher self sacred, and then we know that our counterpart sees the higher self that we build towards and does same. That is the pathwork of healthy relationship that builds into the context of aspiration. And that's why it's blessed when counterpart articulates something that they see that feels like it's not in alignment to that, because that is the honesty of the mass of the energy of the partner that helps one identify and articulate upon the blind spot, right? And that's why we see that that's the energy that almost says to one another, you might not necessarily always love what I have to say, but identify and recognize the love from which it springs forth is that often, and this is what happens in unhealthy relationships, with another is too afraid to say something to each other, right? Where someone is in a place where they can't navigate or receive feedback. Often we get an unhealthy feedback loop in a relationship where someone's just saying yes all the time because they're too afraid to articulate something that isn't, right? And so this is what's beautiful about those partnerships, because I just see that this is the energy that I can almost hear them say, I love you because you crack me open, not to break me, but to make sure, like to help me see inside myself better, right? I keep on hearing like it's like they're saying like the love that's like a pomegranate that says we crack each other open so that we can see the beauty inside of each other, not to try to break each other, but to help us see the delicacy of the vulnerable parts of the self, right? It's a lot of that type, like that's the heart opening. While for masculine and feminine coming into divine union, this is the energy that says, I love you because I can finally go inside. This is the energy because I love you because I can finally go inside. But they're saying going inside the self, because when we're not worried about having to perform the act of being the self to counterpart, when we find that stability, it allows us to go into the sanctuary of ourselves and get into an even deeper level of authenticity. While for masculine and feminine energy in separation, this is the energy that's going, I tell you right now. I love this because there's all this energy in separation that's like, I am now going into my villain era by not caring what anybody thinks of me. And the higher self is going, that's not a villain. That's not a villain. That's not a villain. And they're going, and the higher self's going, if that's what they need to tell themselves, then it's fine. Let them tell them that. Let them tell themselves that. Continuing to get clarification, between the Five of Pentacles in its reversal and the Ace of Pentacles in its reversal, right? Because what happens, what beautiful thing happens when we go into the space of ourselves and go, I'm finally going to be the villain and I'm just going to be myself and I'm not going to care what anyone thinks. Someone goes, you look really beautiful like that. I've never seen someone so beautiful. The ability to, that is what we call, like, that is the energy that says, like, often, and this is what we talk about, like we talk about when you're moving towards manifestation, you get the ick on the things that aren't in alignment to you. And so this is a lot of energy that's working into the partnership. And first they have to get sick of performing the variety act of the self for another, right? Working through another, like often in those moments. And again, we find what's for us by not trying to change situations, right? We don't work towards manifestations and saying, they don't treat me well, but maybe if I just stick around longer, if I show them how good I can be, maybe that'll change their mind. All we do, if someone is not building into the context of not holding you in a place of love, and you give them more love to try to show them that they should, all you're saying to them is, this is what you get when you treat me. Like, it doesn't change things. It seals them in cement. It kind of makes them concrete. It creates that. It creates it's not about a healthy relationship. It's not about waiting for something to be something that it's not. This is what we talk about in the space. And this is a lot of the energy that's in separation right now, that I can see they're going through that grief. They're actively grieving. They're actively grieving in the difference between what they hoped to attain in partnership versus what they found. But this is the energy that almost says that something about that journey. When we accept what is, it allows us to find what is for us, because we don't wait for things that are not for us to change. We move in accordance in the direction of what it feels like. Because you have to remember, energy manifestations are not a healthy manifestation. Isn't what the manifestation looks like. It's what it feels like. And when we move towards something that doesn't feel right, and we keep on saying to the universe, why isn't my manifestation acting right? All the universe hears is, I guess they like that. I guess they like if you're moving towards something that doesn't feel right, and the universe sees you and you're going, why isn't my manifestation acting right? All the universe sees is, I guess they like that, right? So everything we keep on seeing is, this is a lot of the energy that's saying, I'm not going to try to change the energy I find within a person. I'm going to accept what it is, not what it looks like, right? Because when we stop thinking about our manifestations between what looks right and start going towards what feels right, we start moving into energetic alignment with ourselves. And that's why I keep on hearing that this is the energy in separation, letting go of the illusion of rejection, right? Because if someone experiences our energy and they go, ew, we say good. we say good. Continuing between, and for energy coming into divine union, this is why I hear the energy coming into divine union that is like going through this like major moment, because this is the energy that's saying, never have I had a moment of being more in my stability, the relationship that has become a sanctuary. Because when we feel the stabilization point of a relationship where we don't need to constantly worry about the ground that we're standing on, it finally allows us the security of being vulnerable enough to go inward. So this is the energy that's saying to one another, thank you. And the energy is saying, I'm not doing anything. And the energy is saying, you have given me the sanctuary of healthy partnership that's allowing me to finally go into the temple of myself. What you've given me is beyond value. And this is why I see for the energy deep within divine union, this is the energy that holds the precious mirror of one another, which is the healthy relationship of partnership, that we know that when we look at another and say, am I doing something wrong here? like when we have those moments when we're going through the motions of ourselves and we're like, oh, is there something I'm not seeing? The beauty of having a counterpart that would say to us, if there was something that was different here, if there was something that you could change, I would tell you. Like that calibration point that we arrive at, like this is the beauty of building into that context of partnership, because this is the energy that says, and I keep on saying, the energy's in the warrior and they're bowing to each other because they're the clear mirror. And it's a clear mirror that always helps us see an energetic blind spot, right? The value beyond measure. Final card in today's spread between our High Priestess in its reversal and our Nine of Pentacles in its upright. One card of clarification. Wow, there it is. Yeah, this is like a resting new moon. This is like a lot of, there's a lot of resting in this moon. I just keep on seeing a lot of healing, a lot of catharsis. And I feel like it's because like there's a lot of that. I keep on seeing like, and I'm not surprised to see it, because remember, this has been like a real rough patch leading up to this new moon, especially with like all of that work we had to do with the eclipse cycle, like working on the perception of the self. But that's why I keep on seeing that there's something about this particular new moon in Taurus that is very heavily in relationality to restoration, rest, building into that context of stability. And I keep on hearing like it has a lot to do with the conversation of being energetically good with ourselves. right? And this is beautiful, because what do we mean when we say when we're energetically good with ourselves? When we're energetically good with ourselves, it's not conditional for what happens outside of the self. You know, we recognize, and we feel the, I keep on hearing, we feel the weight of security as it relates to being able to identify like who we are and what we do. And I keep on hearing that there's something really beautiful, that I keep on hearing the release of being good with oneself is when you don't, is like you stop worrying about what happens around you. You're much more concerned with what happens within you, because that's the energy that says that, like you don't articulate, you don't do things for the sake of others. You do them because you're having a conversation with the higher self. And like when you're in the conversation with the higher self, and the higher self's like, you good with that? And you're like, I'm good with that. Then we're good with it, right? Because it's building into, I keep on hearing, the solace of being in energetic alignment that doesn't require perfection, but almost requires the space of making energetic peace with what you find as you continue forward on that journey, right? And I keep on hearing, it's beautiful, because they keep on saying, peace is not found, it's made, right? It's working in the service of it. It's working in the direction of it. And also that breaks are a part of that I keep on hearing. And I'm not surprised to be getting a message like this during Taurus season. Rest is not exclusive to work. Rest is a part of work, because the ability, when we look at all of it as work, the ability to take time for ourselves is just as much as an investment in what it is that we create for one another. So I just keep on seeing that there's a lot of energy making peace with things right now. For a lot of the energy in separation, it feels like there's a lot of grief that's being released, right? There's a lot of that grief that's being released, because this is the energy that in the moment that they say, I am perfect, if I'm trying to work to be perfected, right? Then this is them letting go of another person's demands for something that they feel is not in alignment to them, right? Like there's a lot of that, energy here that is saying, like, and sometimes I can see that this is why it's so difficult, because in that moment that another person moves towards someone and they do something the same way, and I keep on hearing they're waiting for the other shoe to drop. They're waiting for what they expected in terms of another person being demanding, but instead they just have that security. It's like that relief, right? Because that's the energy that says it wasn't me. It wasn't something that is conditional, that happens over and over. It's something that was occurring in a situation that one is then free of, right? Because that's the moment often when we move in the same way and we have different results, that we suddenly understand what it is that we're truly healing from. While for masculine and feminine coming into divine union, I just keep on seeing that this is the energy that's saying to each other, this solace you bring me has a quantity beyond measure, because that it's not quantifiable. Like what it is that you're building towards, there's no words for it, because it's so much of that articulation of the point that this is the energy that says, when I find solitude and partnership, I can go into the temple of myself. While for masculine and feminine energy coming deep in divine union, this is the energy that builds into the understanding of what it is they can change within the self versus what it is they're experiencing outside the self. And it's not always easy, right? There's difficulty points here. There's pain points, but there's something about that adaptability that becomes the ground from which they build, because this is the energy that almost articulates upon those changes and feels the stabilization in the process. Bottom of the deck on today's reading, Ace of Wands in its reversal. I think it's so funny that we keep on getting this Ace of Wands card, because it's more of the continuation of the conversation that we often have in Taurus season, which is the ability to identify and recognize the difference between stubbornness and tenacity. Right? Because when we're being I need to point that out, when we're being sticks in the mud about something, right? We can often identify we're being sticks in the mud about something. We're holding on to something that isn't supportive to us because it just feels good to hold on to it. Right? Like we hold on to it. We're rigid about it, right? We stick to it. And then other people ask us, like, why are you holding on to that so tightly? And you say, because I want it that way, right? Like that's usually a sign that it's something that the ego is holding on to because it can't explain it, but boy, does it feel good. Boy, does it feel good to hold on to it. It feels really good, right? But often when we're holding on to something that we know is energetically important, it's ironic because we'd rather let it go. Like the energy being like, would love to let it go, but you can't, right? Because it's important. Like it's honestly, and the interesting irony is often the things we know are the things that we need to hold on to is because we don't want to, but we have to. It's like, but being able to talk about why, right? Being able to talk about like the sense or the space of trying to change something, but not, like it's working in that context of identifying like the uncomfortability point, the frustration, like like almost articulating the blockage, but, also having to just navigate through it. I keep on seeing like there's a lot of conversations right now as it relates to the difference between stubbornness and tenacity, which is the difference between, again, holding on to something from a point of rigidness that feels like it's hindering you versus those moments or those opportunities where you articulate upon something because it's important, because it's vital, because you have no choice to, because you're like, this is not something, this is not a small thing, this is something of utmost importance. And I keep on, again, remembering usually a good identification point and the difference that you're holding on to something stubbornly versus something that the higher self is holding on to is the higher self is always really, really, really open to having that conversation about it. The higher self is always like, how much time you got? We'll go over it one more time. We'll walk through it one more time. Like, let's keep talking about it. That is our daily collective read for today. I want to thank you guys so much for being here and receiving it. Just a reminder, if you would like to book a private reading with me, you can book one on my site. Please keep in mind, if you book a private reading with me, it is a 2-step process. You have to book the reading, you have to pay for the reading. Please make sure you do both if you would like to have that reading. Most importantly, please remember that I will never, ever, 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 ever reach out to you for a private reading. I will never DM you. I will never PM you. I will never slide into your inbox and tell you that I have a very important message that only I can deliver. The only way you can book a reading with me is if you book one on my site, so I would encourage you to do it there. Also, a couple of updates before we move into personal readings today. First and foremost, thank you to everyone who attended our recent class on the Hangman card. Our next class will be held on Wednesday, May 14th, at 6 p.m. PST, 9 p.m. Eastern. We will be continuing our studies into the tarot with a focus on the death card. If you would like to become a part of that tarot class program, all you need to do is head over to my Substack and become a paid subscriber. Your paid subscription to my Substack is your ticket of entry into our live classes each and every month. You will also, as a subscriber, have access to over 9 hours worth of material in the Tarot Church Library Archive. Now, it's not necessary to catch up. I will be doing my best to give you an update on everything we have studied thus far, but the material is there for you to receive when you're ready to receive it. You will also have access to a one-on-one chat with me and the other students to ask any questions you may have in relation to anything we've studied or are currently studying. And if you become a founding member to my Substack, not only will you receive a discount on the full year's worth of classes, you will also receive full access to the entirety of the Tarot Church Library. That is access to over 13 hours worth of material in an ever-expanding library. Now, it's not necessary. And again, also you'll also have access to a complimentary one-on-one mentorship class with me, wherein I will meet with you personally and assess where you are on your tarot journey and give you the best insights in terms of how to utilize those classes to the best impact going towards your personal tarot goals. One of the things I tried to do in these classes was make them accessible to the absolute novice tarot reader as well as the seasoned reader. There's definitely something there for everyone. Don't let your lack of experience or your robust experience prevent you from joining us on these classes. And even if you don't become a paid subscriber to my Substack, I would encourage you to follow me there to stay up to date on any new offerings or services. I also post my weekly newsletter there, which will let you know about my in-person events and my online live schedule. I also post my Mystic Meditations there, which will give you written updates on what we've been seeing energetically in the cards. I also want to let you guys know that on top of my standard life path readings, I also offer mentorship classes. These are for any of my clients seeking a more personalized educational experience with me. I take a very limited number of students for this reason, as those classes are focused on each individual's personal spiritual goals and journey work. I also want to let you guys know that I take a very limited number of students for those mentorships. So please, if you join me, you always apply, and I keep those limited. They can be purchased on an individual level or as a series, weekly or bi-weekly as your schedule permits. Also, for my clients seeking more consistent weekly tarot support, I'm very happy to offer weekly tarot insight packages. That is a package of 4 30-minute readings, again, weekly or bi-weekly as your schedule permits, so that you can stay more consistent on your personal journey. I'm also very happy to now offer dream interpretation readings. You can purchase those per dream or as a series. If you purchase the series, I would encourage you to start to keep a dream journal, as we will meet weekly or bi-weekly with that journal and utilize the tarot to understand the key themes and messages coming towards you in the dream space. I want to thank you guys so much for being here today and sharing in these messages, and we will do this again tomorrow.